to PNN, not CNN, people. For all you powerful, conscious folks who are listening, and we just appreciate that you stay with us on this and really delve into something that yet has not been dealt with. Welcome to From Katrina to Corona, poor and indigenous peoples led solutions to poverty and COVID-19 versus government pimp solutions. Mm-hmm. And we are going to start in a good way, as we always do, with acknowledging the land of the Ohlone Lishan Nation, upon whose lands we are blessed to be on. So if people can, on this day, which of course honors Yeshua, revolutionary Jesus, and resurrection, and all of those things that means, it's also honoring Mama Earth. So if we can start in a good way, as we always do, close our eyes for a second. Thank you to Glado Kamati, Tonatsin Kotlikwe. Thank you, Mama Earth, for always holding us, especially in this time where so many of us humans are in pain. Thank you to the First Nations people of this land who suffered the first forms of pandemic and literal genocide 527 years ago, but are still here. Thank you to all the ancestors who we stand on their shoulders humbly, and to all the ancestors of everybody who's tuning in today. As we hold you in our heart and we move through this very difficult time. Thank you to all of us, and prayers out to anyone who is sick, who is ailing from this COVID-19, but also from all the other ways that capitalism and colonization destroys all of us in this occupied nation. Oh, Mateo.
Okay, thank you, Tiny. So, like our title, From Katrina to Corona, Government versus People's Solution, many of us have been here before, from New Orleans to Puerto Rico, poor, disabled in houses. People have our own solutions. So, at Port Magazine, we use stories, poetry, music to tell the truth and to frame our work. So with that, we will share a piece each to, really frame, this broadcast. So Tiny, do you want to go first, or I can go first?
I'm gonna just do an excerpt. So I'll do it. From Katrina to Corona, all lies from the massa and the owner. Yeah, the ones that they say own Mama Earth. The stealing fathers, founding fathers, who have raped and pillaged since birth. What did they find when they arrived? Indigenous peoples who always shared love, food, and were always kind, only to be destroyed by people who declared Turtle Island, everything is mine. Yeah, this lie, this stock crazy continues today, except hegemony rules the day. The faces and spaces aren't just white and pink, they all colors and classes, and somehow got bought up into the greed, groupthink.
Yes.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. So mine is called Bridges Are Falling Down, dedicated to Roland Madison, that was shot on the Pnn-Kexu Bridge in New Orleans. So, and he was a Black and a disabled man. The Pnn-Kexu Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. The Pnn-Kexu Bridge is falling down, my Black family. Run, 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 here comes the cops with their guns, guns, guns. After hurricane, can't see the sun. Roland Madison trying to run toward freedom. Nowhere to go but the New Orleans Superdome. No, this is not a fairy tale. No ice cream cone. From my roof, I see the Golden Gate Bridge. The Anza Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. The Anza Bridge is falling down. My Black family from coronavirus. This country already made me sick. On rooftops or sheltering in place. No one is coming. It's all about us. The spirit of Roland Madison is still running from bridge to bridge singing. Bridges are falling down, falling down, falling down. What are we going to do this time around?
Amen. Amen.
All right, so let's go on to our, So before we get started, in a little about who we are in this Liberation Broadcast for News Network radio station is a broadcasting from poor, houseless, disabled, and indigenous people's solution to homelessness, with poor folks called homefulness. We will talk more about this later in the broadcast. But this radio is part of a solution. We are also building houses for houseless families, and already 4 houseless families now have roofs because of homelessness, as well as a school for homeless and disabled children, and radical redistribution efforts in the streets 4 days a week, providing healing and sanitation supplies for unhoused families and leaders in poorhouse communities. For more on any of these projects or support us, follow Poor Magazine on Twitter, Facebook, or go to poormagazine.org. Tiny.
So this series is the beginning of a series of special Zoom broadcasts co-hosted by PNN, that's PNN, not CNN, myself, Tiny, and Leroy, because we really wanted to get at a piece of this narrative that corporate media never talks about. But sadly, even a lot of folks in the movement don't talk about, which is a different narrative about homelessness and poverty and COVID-19. Because we poor folks already know that we struggling every day. We struggling to get food. We struggling in lines. My brother, Pastor OG Rev, will speak upon just to get food. You know, sometimes it's 200 to 300 people in a line in any of our urban settings. Now it's 500 or 400. Now, if anything, there's just another layer to the other virus that this poverty scholar calls poverty. Right. And so one of the scary things is that all of these politrickstered and, or I should say colonized cities across occupied Turtle Island practice what we call a scarcity model. Now, meaning there's never enough for all of us. We never walk in abundance. There's only a little bit for some of us, right? And us radical liberators know that's a lie of capitalism, as I call it. And that in fact, part of the lie is that some people need to have too much so that so many of us have none. Right? And so these cities across occupied Turtle Island, when implored to do the obvious humane thing, which is to put unhoused folks like my mom were when I was a kid and later when I had my son, in these empty motel rooms and hotel rooms across the U.S. Did they do that? No. It took this huge pressure, but now some of them have started doing it. And right here in Occupied Delongmu, aka San Francisco, where OG Rev is a beautiful pastor in the streets with Glide, they just started doing it. But what did they do? They turned it into jail cells with heavily policed, saying people can't leave for a certain amount of time. Anyway, I'd love to bring in our beautiful guest, the author and poet and Pastor Reverend OG Rev, to tell us, as another street soldier like I and Brother Leroy are, what you've been hearing from your fellow poverty scholars.
Well, there's what, I stay in touch with people from the street all the time. I've got people from the Tenderloin who call me, day and night. And then last Thursday, I went back to the Tenderloin to really see for myself rather than just hear. And I was very disheartened and dismayed because of the hopelessness that's there. But the thing that really struck me so hard, first of all, I didn't say this. First of all, I want to thank you. I'm so thankful to be a part of this broadcast. Brother Leroy, thank you very much for having me. Sister Tiny, thank you for having me today and allowing me to be a part of the Poor Magazine family and your outreach to the community. So let me start there. So going back from there, I was disheartened when I found out and what happened at MSC South. So a lot of the people that I've my loved ones over the years have been housed at MSC South, and so we were all given these directives about the distancing, shelter in place, 6 feet apart, and how it's dangerous for us to be too close together. And so you bring all of these people into this one area where that can't be a reality. And what I found out today, so then we hear that 2 people come down with COVID-19. And then it's overnight, it's 70. And then I'm finding out that there were only like 80 or 90 people. So almost everybody in there got it. And then they don't have the common decency to come to the folk and say, hey, there's a problem and you all are infected. And they go to the news media first. And so the people only find out about what's happened through the news media. And so they're just treated as less than human. And then there's the whole, oh my goodness. I was looking at a movie about Katrina before we got on this broadcast. And there's so many parallels between what happened in Katrina and what's happening here. So I'll start with that. I just don't understand how we've come to a place where we just ignore the dignity of human beings, but this surely shows
it. Yes. I mean, I think that also it's really interesting to me because, and one of the reasons this came up for both me and Leroy, right, is Ibaye to my mama D for without him there be no me. But before she transitioned, Katrina was happening. And I'll never forget something she said, which, a lot of poor people and people of color, my mom was a mixed race, Boricua sister. She said, just like Kanye West said at the time, right? I guess, wasn't that the famous line? They don't care about us.
Right.
But my mom said, being the revolutionary poverty scholar that she's like, yeah, but that sets up the wrong narrative, because the reality is they count on these natural disasters killing us. Now there's a lot of people out there saying, which I want to give voice to and shouts out to all of the, folks, Minister King William and California Prison Focus and some other cats who are talking about, and many, I have no reason not to believe, that this wasn't created in a lab by what I call white science to, kill as many poor people as it could get. But then again, maybe really at the end of the day, it's also just about the scarcity model killing us. Because let's be real, as we heard with the head dude from, England, right? Who is on his deathbed, and he apparently is okay now. But he literally said, which is so funny because he's the one who put in austerity, right? Which is the thing killing poor and disabled Englanders. He said that the reason he's alive is because he had 24-hour nurse care in a hospital in England, which again, right, in a private room with 2 nurses. But let's be real, what are we poor folks getting? We lucky enough, first of all, to even get the test if we get it. Working class, poor people on the front line. Then if we get the test, are we getting any kind of treatment? No. And then us folks on the street left in places like navigation centers that are already abuses of hygiene, that are already, as our brother Davin reported, Ruthless Radio reporter last week on Poor People's Radio, the one I do with Mutiado on Tuesday, you know, in his opinion, and he's a barber who happens to be houseless right now, he's like, this was dangerous before there was a COVID-19. We already know these conditions that us poor people are not surviving in, aka these shelters, these warehouses. Lucky if you have a tent, if it's not stolen by the, you know, politricksters, you dealing with death and vulnerable populations already.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and so again, going back to Mama D, you know, I feel like, yeah, we know that for us poor folks, the setup was already in. The set was already in. What they did, right, to our sisters and brothers when they were waiting on those roofs, and like beautiful brother Leroy's poem, you know, they were setting up folks to die. I'm sorry. That's how it feels.
Very true. You know, so I'm even going to go, when we talk about New Orleans, I'm going to go back even further than that. So people partied up until the end, but the levees broke in the Ninth Ward, which was largely African American. Some of those levees were made in the 1920s, and they were known already to be defective. So all it would take was a storm that was large enough to destroy the Ninth Ward. If there was equity in the society, long before that Katrina hit, they would have said, well, you know, one day a storm will come along here, so let's invest some money in making sure that that levee can hold if that happens.
That's right.
And it's just the same way in San Francisco and Oakland. We know that people are hungry. We know that people don't have access to resources. Let's fix that, because one day something may come along where that's really bad, and they really will be in trouble. There's a parallel between the two things.
And the thing about all of this is that poor people have the solutions. You know, me and Tiny went down to New Orleans. We interviewed Malik. Like, we had the solution.
Common ground.
Common ground.
That's right.
You know, what Poor Magazine is doing, you know, about, you know, homelessness, we have the solutions. But every time an emergency happens, it's like a cycle. They go back to the cycle, they think about the government and all these services, and they still don't listen to the people. That what really gets me ticked off.
Exactly. I just want to lift up a couple examples for folks right now. So one of the things we talked about, right? We talked about poor people-led solutions versus government solutions. So real talk, and people are like, well, what does that mean? Well, first of all, first they came for the homeless, here, there camp in Berkeley. I want to lift them up. A self-determined solution right there on occupied Huichin, taking back that land, creating their own self-governed camp. It's clean as a whistle. You know, because they've resisted, right, and fought over and over again, these violence called sweeps haven't been able to dismantle their home. Try keeping your encampment clean when DPW comes and does sweeps, aka takes all your stuff and throws it in the garbage can. So like I say, right, in one of my poems, anti-social workers and case manglers call me crazy, lazy, dumb, and a bum, because my knowledge don't come from the institution. They call us dirty, and yet it's a setup for a get up to make sure we're dirty, because they're constantly taking our ish and making sure that we have no organization. Like my mama used to say, some of the most organized people live on the street. Try keeping all your belongings in a shopping cart. Try packing those hefty bags every day and keeping them arranged, right? So anyway, that's a great example. Another one, shout out to Andrea Hansen and Where Do We Go Berkeley, who right now of their own volition are cleaning up, quote unquote, because the city just continued the sweeps. The kill trans just continued the sweeps. Finally, Berkeley threw down and assisted her in that process. But that was only after there were endlessly suffering these violent sweeps, having all their stuff taken, and then wondering, why did those camps and those homeless people look so dirty? Yeah, try living that life, right? So again, shout out to Where Do We Go Berkeley, lifting up and creating their own cleaning program, working together with young people and elders in the Berkeley community to make sure that they could actually raise the money to have, dump runs and all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Poor People's Army. Shout out to
Mm.
Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign out in Philly, doing their own radical redistribution efforts like we doing here in Oakland and Frisco. Shout out to Homies Empowerment, SF, with the free store right here on
Amen.
Black
Amen.
Arthur, right? Shout out to
Yes.
Sliding Scale Cafe at Homefulness, where guess what? The lie of scarcity and capitalism is not the answer. And,
Mm.
right? And similarly, going back to the point of today's show, it ain't the solution. So
Mm.
as we begged the nice politricksters to give us motel rooms, right?
Yes.
Right? What they've done is turn them into jail cells. I talked to one of our street scholars after your beautiful report from the street, and he said, oh, hell no. I already am triggered with PTSD. I went in one of the motel rooms and they immediately did a shakedown, said I had to get rid of all my belongings, be patted down. He said, I can't do that. I can't do that with corona or without corona, because I'm already afraid that every engagement I have with the pigs is going to end up in my death as a Black disabled man in Americlan. So that was just one. We have another sister who has a child, and they're targeting her and saying that she's, quote, a substance abuser. She knows the minute she engages in that, CPS going to be on her tail. So she's like, no, I'll take my tent over here and take my chances, because I'm not going to engage with the people, as we say at Poor, who test, arrest, and incarcerate us. So again, no, the politicians don't got our back. They never did. And guess what? I don't trust Oakland any more than Frisco. And so I know that our powerful brothers and sisters were in the street yesterday. Shout out to People's Community Medics and Community Ready Corps and ACE and those cats, demanding that Oakland kick down and get the unhoused brothers and sisters into motel rooms. But guess what? I say, give us the money, call it reparations that poor and Black and brown people need, and we'll take care of the systems that set it up. We don't want your politrickster systems that just predate upon every poor person they get.
And, I would like to say, is that anytime we go into emergency crisis, non-disabled people use what disabled people have been using since day one. Disability justice. We've been using telemarketing because we have to, because we can't leave our beds.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been using masks before people had thought about masks. So, once again, poor people and disabled people have the solutions. But under emergencies, the state takes our solutions and try to, make money off of it, but they never learn from it. So I bet you any money that the government's gonna go back to the original, liberal solutions after this.
Exactly.
And don't learn from Poor Magazine, don't learn from disability justice like Stacey Melbourne,
Shout out to Disability Culture Club. You're badass. We can do for self. We can create self-determination. And, again, also shout out to our solidarity brothers, the folks who have different forms of race and class privilege, and actually stand shoulder to shoulder with poor, indigenous, and Black and brown solutions, who don't impose their deep structure, their views, their perspective on us, but actually stand together so that we can lift up ourselves. these are different ways of functioning. And, I just want to say that, sometimes people don't quite understand, I think. And I think that's the interesting part about self-determination.
Yes.
We aren't asking for a job. We
Um,
aren't, right? We aren't asking for what I affectionately call the philanthropy crumbs. We're asking for, as we say to Poor Magazine, community reparations, so that we can actually build our own. And, for people who don't understand how that goes down, we actually created the Poverty Scholarship book this year, which is our own theory. Poor people have our own theory. What about, how about that? And I wanted to have myself and Leroy read a little bit of that, but also I wanted ask for OG Rev to read a little of your beautiful book too, if you happen to have of it on you, because it's revolutionary gospel. That's my new term. I really thought of that. I woke up this morning and I said, oh my God, OG Rev is doing revolutionary gospel. And that is on every day, because you're at the,
Wow.
right?
Thank
But
you.
yes, no, really. Go ahead, Leroy. Do you want read a little bit from Poverty Scholarship book?
I'm going to go to the next room. I'm listening. I'll be back in 1 minute because I'm going to get the book.
Okay,
Go
please.
right ahead, though. I'm here. I'm right here.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay.
And in about 10 minutes, we're going to open it up to questions for people.
Okay, because I've got my sister Gloria on here.
Yes.
Gloria's from the city.
Beautiful.
And
yeah. We're just
I
going to
want
read
get
a
her in
little
this
from this,
conversation.
and then we'll open it up to questions for sure. Go ahead.
30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so before, this is KEXU 96.1 FM, East Oakland, from Poor Magazine. So it's a radio station that we do in East Oakland. So catch us up online, or you can catch us on SoundCloud, Poor Magazine, and listen to it. So, a little bit by Poverty Scholar book, the intro, we will talk about poor solutions and shout out, to other people-led solutions. So poverty scholars are the people usually silenced, incarcerated, criminalized, displaced, homeless, disabled, marginalized, shorted, separated, and extinguished. Tiny, we can't hear you.
Sorry, this is the book in case everyone wants to know, but we're not doing it to make money. If people want a free copy, we can send it to you. And it's also just about to go on as a digital copy too. The notion of poverty scholarship was born in the calles, prisons, street corners, community centers, welfare offices, shelters, kitchen tables, assembly lines, tenements, favelas, projects, and ghettos. All the places people don't look for educators, experts, leaders, researchers, linguists, artists, writers, and media producers. Poverty scholars are told our knowledge is not valid or legitimate. Our speech is improper. Our work and our choice is criminal. Our words inept. Our languages, writing, thinking, and art are deemed invalid through something we call linguistic domination, which is crafted by formal institutions of learning.
Formal institutions of learning that were launched by wealth hoarders and land occupiers with access to land inherited or stolen from indigenous peoples.
So that's just a little excerpt from the intro, and I want to shout out to Karina Gold and Janella and Inez and Fui and Loa and all the powerful folks at Segorte Land Trust who are of the different First Nations and Moana nations, who we as homeless and poor and disabled and migrante people asked permission first before we even dreamed of building homefulness, of unselling this small piece of Mama Earth right here in deep East Oakland, Huichin, so that we could permanently take her off the real estate market.
Mm.
Again, right? Again, unsell Mama Earth and end homelessness tomorrow is one of the things that we say.
And
So,
I
yeah.
want to add before we go on to
Yes.
the pastors, like that teaching from Poor Magazine took years. So
That's
it's not an overnight, grant guideline.
Exactly.
It's the teachings and, the principles that Poor Magazine has. And
Yes.
we can go around and, teach other people, how to do it. We were in New Orleans, we were in Tennessee. So it's not only East Oakland,
Exactly.
everywhere.
Yeah. And we have a thing called People School where we teach young folks with race and class privilege about radical redistribution and ungentrifying their lives. That happens twice a year. I'll put the link up here too. But just folks know that this is just a template, and we share it with all poor folks all over Mama Earth. We say homefulness the world, for real. Pastor Williams, Pastor OG Rev, can you read a little of your beautiful book? And then we'll open it to questions for folks out there.
Well, since this is Resurrection Sunday, also known as Easter, I'm going to read you something from this is my newest book. It's called Taking It to the Streets, Lessons from the Life of Urban Ministry. And this book originated from the fact that I always felt that ministers, people of faith, clergy, rabbis, imams, pastors, we should be really involved in this struggle, because we're supposed to be sworn to protect the people in the community and to be a walk with the folk. And when I haven't seen that, it just amazed me. Like, I think, what is that, where that Walgreens is on International Boulevard? What is that, like 88 International, maybe about 80th, 79th Street?
Yeah.
There's a big Walgreens there. So a gentleman, Pat, lost his life, and an unhoused person lost his life there a couple of days ago. And my nephew, Daryl Allums, went on live about it. And it's just amazing that this man was there and he lost his life.
Wow.
And just, he became anonymous. And so now people are afraid, if we help them, we might have caught COVID-19.
Oh, please.
But, if we hand him $1. So I just see so much, I just see so much apathy. And so I wrote this book. And I'm just going to read you a few words from it, and then we can open it up here.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. In a war, an underground resistance is a tiny group of dissidents that rises up behind enemy lines with the intent of overthrowing the empire. Often the resistance movement is composed of bakers, newspaper writers, bankers, housewives, bus drivers, college students, retirees, regular people fed up with the status quo. They don't carry banners and flags. They go about their work silently, but with great resolve beating in their hearts. When history is written, we find that the war could not have been won without the courage and willingness of a tiny resistance party to pull it all on the line for the cause. You don't have to be a great orator to serve this modern day faith resistance. You don't have to have a graduate school degree or ordination papers to be part of the resistance. You need compassion and a heart surrendered to Jesus Christ. I have met members of the resistance who change diapers in the church nursery, pick up children for Sunday school, mentor inner city youth, and hand out food in 10 cities. Are you prepared to love as Jesus loved? Are you prepared to take this all the way? Are you prepared to resist apathy and to walk in the lifestyle of Christ-like compassion? Then let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, that's it. That's it. That's the street soldier preacher challenge right there. That's what's up. I just want, before you open it up, I want to say really two quick things. Other examples of Katrina to Corona violence is actually what's going on in our plantation prison system, behind the razor wire plantations. Again, right here in occupied Huichin, we have Santa Rita County Jail reporting 13 deaths at this point. And then we have our actually, which is even more terrifying or equally as terrifying, jails and prisons all across occupied Turtle Island, with people dying or getting sick inside these crowded conditions that are already without needing corona. They're already a setup for the ghetto. So I just want to lift up that violence, right? That violence that was created by colonial genocide that continues to this day, and to show that sort of setup from the get up system, how deeply it is set up to destroy every poor person, indigenous person. And then lastly, in the Navajo Nation, the Dene people struggling as one of the 3 hotspots of corona are running out of water. Why? Because they were moved off their ancestral land onto basically barren land where they have to rely on these genocidal governments, and now, of course, running out of water. I just want to hold all of them in our prayerful hearts and also our resistance hearts as we talk so seriously about this dynamic.
And also nursing homes and group homes. The nursing home in Philadelphia, they had to evacuate, and they're living on the streets in Philadelphia. So
That's right.
Okay, so I'm gonna unmute everybody and let's talk.
And if people could just sort of maybe raise their hand and start one at a time or something.
Yeah.
If people have questions or I don't know.
Okay.
All right, everybody's unmuted.
Any questions for Gloria or Didi or Moya?
Hey, Didi, what's up?
Sister Gloria, I know that you're out here in the community, and I would love to, in San Francisco, and you're a longtime activist. What do you think about the situation of the unhoused, and what, you know, you've heard this conversation, you've heard the conversation. What thoughts do you have?
Well, hello everyone. Like you said, my name is Gloria, and I'm in the Bayview Hunters Point area, and we have a place called Mother Brown's Shelter, where they feed people twice a day, hot meals, and they're very tasty. And they also have an area where people can have mats and lay down and get some sleep and feel safe. And when the virus first came, they told them they had to reduce the amount of people that could sleep in there. And then they had to be in chairs, not the mats, which has been an ongoing thing with them switching back if you could sleep in a chair or on a mat. So then they brought them to the the chair level, and then they shut them down completely. So me and a few friends of mine, we went and set up some tents in the park because no one's utilizing the park right across the street from the clinic. And we got 3 people the first night. And the next morning, the park rangers kicked them out. And we had them in 24 square feet spaces away from each other. So it was safe for them to social distance. The park rangers shut us down, and then they took down half of we built 50 spaces of 24 square feet each, and they took half of the spaces down. And the next night we had 4 people in the tent, and they came the next morning and kicked them out. And then Friday they not only kicked them out, they took the tents that we had provided, their blankets, property, and they took their all the markings and all the ropes we had up to mark off the spaces. And we're hearing that maybe tomorrow, all of a sudden, it's going to be their bright idea to use the parks to let people. Yeah. So we're waiting to see what that's going to be tomorrow. And then Hillary Ronan, who's the supervisor of District 9, the mission, she just announced that USF Hospital agreed to test everybody in shelters, and the city hasn't agreed to it as of yet, which scares me because they probably know that the positive numbers will go through the roof. And then they also will have accountability to rehouse people who come up negative that are mixed in with the positive. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Gloria, first of all, thank you for the work you do. Thank you for being here. And I just want to lift you up as an example, right, of, a woman, a warrior of the street, coming up with your own ideas that, of course, are logical. That's the other part of it. Like, let's, have the separated tents, and let's keep people safe in the space that they trust. Hello. Right. And then they destroy it. I mean, I'm just, it boggles my mind how I hear this story over and over again. Same stuff, by the way. Shout out to Sacramento Homeless Union and our warriors up in Sacramento, Crystal Rose Sanchez and Anna Maria and so many more. Same mess up there. Constant harassment, constant belonging and tent theft. And even in this crisis, no respect for the work you did. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wow. Well, thank you, sis, for doing that work. That's all I want to say.
Anybody else have questions, comments?
I just wanted to add that Mother Browns have went from feeding 100 to 200 people a day to 300 people a day. And they keep growing now, but more people are accumulating in the area. And we've been begging for 2 weeks for a hand washing station. And we can't even get that.
Wow. Wow. I mean, part of the thing too is, and again, another shout out, I'm always shouting out our warriors out there, United Front Against Displacement today are putting out their own hand washing station down in Wood Street in West Oakland. And you know why? Well, because the city, even though they're supposed to wash your hands 20 times a day or 20 seconds, I don't even know what the 20 is, but some kind of 20. Do you think they provide that? I guess we don't need to wash our hands when we on the street, and it's actually kind of terrifying to me if you think about it, because again, going back to that setup from the get up, that means that, we don't have the right to have sanitary and cleanliness and order. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. And so basically, again, United Front Against Displacement, as warriors themselves with common sense, they just basically put it in themselves. Right. And what's interesting again about that space is it's this huge area. I don't know if Pastor if OG Rev knows about it, or you, Gloria, but it's down in West Oakland, and a lot of vehicularly housed folks stay there. And this giant, wealth hoarder named Game Changer LLC, the name of the quote landowner, because it's private property, right under the bridge there. It's really huge, right?
Yeah.
His whole thing is he actually launched eviction proceedings against the houseless people there, which of course by design, it proves that they are residents. And his eviction proceedings is saying that they're not residents, which anyway, it's hilarious. But all that to say, he's so busy trying to get rid of them, right? Which he was trying to do way before the virus, that God forbid he actually worries, or anybody in the city worries about their lives. It's right. It's more about, no, the absence of them. They are in the way of us making more bloodstained dollars, of us having more money than we ever need, ever. Right? And how does that even happen? How does that kind of greed get perpetrated?
I have a report from New York. I was talking to my friend in New York. What they're doing in New York is that they're putting houseless people on the subway.
What?
Right.
I was like, what?
Somebody wrote that today. Yeah, somebody wrote me about that today.
Wow.
From New York, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mean on purpose?
I think so. Yeah.
Like, why? Because they're socially distant, or
I don't know. So people are scared to take the subway. In New York, as we know, is the hot spot of this whole, virus. So, yeah.
Wow.
You know, people are talking about how good Cuomo is. You know, there's some history around that. Cuomo cut hospitals for 4 years in New York. 4 years, cut it, slash it every year, every budget year. No wonder they are lacking any kind of equipment or any kind of anything.
Wow,
that's true.
So we're gonna close up in a few minutes, but I wanted to know if anyone has another comment. But I wanted to read another poem.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, there's two. So first of all, it kind of fits, doesn't kind of, it fits with the theme, because our theme is, again, that us poor folks, indigenous peoples, community peoples, we know our own solutions, right? And that really we just need to be listened to, which I think sometimes is really the biggest crime. Any politicians or conscious folks in legislation who might be hearing this, to really listen to poverty and disability and community scholars. That's the first thing. I mean, if we didn't hear that Sister Gloria, as a great example, just together with folks did something that was a solution and then had it dismantled, and that's not a perfect example of this violence, I don't know what is, you know? But anyway, here it is. Anthropology, ethnography, psychology, the study about us, without us. Our spirits, our cultures, our traditions, through your lens, deconstructing our struggles while our communities are dismantled and left in rubble. Acquired with academic privilege, linguistic domination gifts, the myth of inclusion and the cult of independence, long ago sorted and separated out to the few who made it through that system. How are you going to take photographic essays of gente pobre, poor folks, in Arkansas, Oakland, and Bangladesh, but not so much as slice off a bit of your privilege and access? Fly back to your 21st century publishers and your comfort of your thesis and final tests. So we have a new plan. It's a sistership, a mothership, a brothership, not a fellowship. It's called poverty scholarship.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. So, Tiny, you want to talk about the survival handbook that's coming out? And we're going to end with an OG prayer. So, Reverend, can you do us a prayer coming out of this?
Yes, there's two. And I think Reverend, I don't know if Rev OG also has a book coming out too to talk, but I wanted to just put a shout out, especially to folks like Gloria and Rev OG and anyone else who hears this. We're doing a Poor People's Survival Handbook through COVID-19 and the virus called poverty. And Rev OG, if you have a prayer that you think would be appropriate, like even an excerpt of that beautiful prayer you said in the beginning, Gloria, if you wanted to write up what happened, and or if y'all want to just send some resources, or if you know, or a poem, we literally, the deadline is today. We've been circulating it the last 3 weeks, and our powerful team of folks is going to be putting it together in the next couple of days, and it'll be coming out on Poor Press. So folks can email poormag@gmail.com with your art, your poetry, your resources, your prayers. It would be an honor and a blessing if any of you all wanted to throw down.
I will do that. I will do that today.
All right. And then Rev OG, you got a book coming out, don't you?
I do, but what I would like to talk about is I made a video. Ooh. It's called Hope. It's a hip hop video. What? And we've been in the age of coronavirus, and we're really creative with how it was done. And so I'm going to ask you to look out for that in the next coming days and to share that with people when you see it.
I love it. I love it.
All right.
Also, Leroy and Mike, you have some shout outs. I just wanted to say also people can get our work on our SoundCloud page, Poor Magazine. Also, Poor People's Revolutionary Radio is at poormagazine.org/radio on Tuesdays. Thursday night with me and Leroy is now being moved to this time frame on Sundays. So we'll be coming back at this time frame. But also, this Poverty Scholar does a podcast on Spreaker and Apple Podcasts. It's called Podcast from a Poverty Scholar. So I'll have one coming out on this theme today. Go ahead, Leroy.
So a little shout out for myself is that Crip Hop Nation is going to do an international Crip Hop concert online. So that's coming up on May 15th. So people check out that and just really support people on the ground doing the work, not the people that are talking a lot. The people who are doing the work, especially for disabled people that are poor, in group homes, nursing homes, in jails, that are houseless, and really uplift on disability justice, practice, Sins Invalid, Stacy Melbourne, Alice Wong. So yeah. All right.
And a shout out to Dee Dee and Moya who have been giving us little hearts, and we love you back. Thank you for listening.
Love you, Moya.
Yes, and
people.
Right. So much love also to all those warriors in the street who keep on keeping on, from the radical redistributors from Homefulness. We be doing it 4 days a week, to East Oakland Collective, to Homies Empowerment SF, to Coalition on Homelessness and Disability Culture Club. Big love. All of us can do for selves. Because really, at the end of the day, we got.
Yeah. So this is gonna go up on YouTube, on Poor Magazine's YouTube page, the video and stuff. So check it out there.
Yeah,
right?
Poor News Network on YouTube.
Yeah.
Thank you. We love you all. This is PNN, not CNN, people.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody.
And the last thing, though, Pastor OG, would you do us a closing prayer?
Oh, yeah.
I sure will. I sure will. Eternal God, we worship you today. We thank you, God. God, you have been so good to us because you have blessed us, oh God, for the union to come together in this struggle. Lord, one of the things I learned was that you care so much about the impoverished, people who are at the margins, people who are disenfranchised. God, give us the strength and the knowledge and the wisdom to fight for people who are in the streets without enough to eat, who are unhoused, and who are losing hope. God bless this team of people who is in the streets of Oakland and San Francisco and around the country who are trying to do the right thing for people without resources. Bless them in this difficult time, God. Bless anyone within the sound of my voice, oh God, who needs a miracle, who needs a breakthrough. Any poor person who's in need of resources, God, meet that need. Strengthen us, oh God, to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Oh.
Amen. Check you guys later.
Love you all.
Love you.
Okay, stop the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you,
sister. Okay.